The text came in at 7 in the morning, while I was still pouring cereal for my twin boys. My mother's name lit up my screen, and I remember my hands actually shaking before I even opened it. Plans changed, it said. You and the twins aren't coming. Your sister wants only real family on this cruise. I read it 3 times, standing in my kitchen, waiting for the words to rearrange themselves into something that made sense. They never did. And by the end of that same day, I would make sure my mother understood exactly what she had thrown away. Hey, welcome back to Revenge Stories, the channel where we share the moments people finally stopped being quiet. If you love revenge stories, hit that subscribe button, because today's story is one you are not going to forget. My name is Sarah Whitman, and this is what happened when my own mother decided my 6-year-old sons weren't real family. For 3 years, I had been the one holding my family together financially, and nobody talked about it out loud, but everybody depended on it. After my father passed away, my mother, Diane, could not keep up with the house payments on her own. I stepped in. I took over the mortgage on the house she lived in, the same house my younger sister, Jessica, had moved back into after her divorce. I paid the property taxes. I paid for repairs when the roof leaked and when the water heater died. And every single year, I was the one who paid for the family cruise, because it was supposed to be the one time we all came together, my mother, my sister, my boys, and me. This year's cruise was supposed to leave from Miami on a Friday morning. I had booked 5 cabins. I had paid the deposit for all of it back in February. Thousands of dollars, because that is what you do for family. Or at least that is what I believed back then. My sons, Ethan and Noah, had been counting down the days for weeks. They made a paper chain in their bedroom and tore off a link every night before bed. They kept asking me if Grandma Diane was going to let them steer the pretend ship on the pool deck, because she had promised them that on a video call. I remember Noah asking me twice that week if we were really going, and I told him yes, twice, because I believed it myself. Then came that text message on the morning we were supposed to leave. Plans changed. You and the twins aren't coming. Your sister wants only real family on this cruise. I called my mother immediately. She picked up on the 4th ring, and her voice had that flat, rehearsed tone she uses when she has already decided something and just wants to get the conversation over with. She told me that Jessica felt uncomfortable with other people's kids around her own children on the trip, since Jessica had brought her new boyfriend and his 2 kids along. Other people's kids. That is what my mother called my sons. My mother, who had held both of them the day they were born. My mother, who I had been paying rent for in her own home for 3 years. I asked her if she understood what she was saying. She sighed, like I was the unreasonable one, and said, "Sarah, it's just one cruise. Don't make this a whole thing." I did not scream. I did not cry in front of my boys, who were still standing in the kitchen in their little swim shirts, ready to go. I told my mother I understood, and I hung up the phone. Then I sat down at my kitchen table, opened my laptop, and I made a decision that had honestly been years in the making. Even if I hadn't admitted it to myself until that exact moment, the house my mother lived in was in my name. I had never transferred the deed to her because my accountant told me years ago it made more sense for tax purposes to keep it under my name and simply cover the payments. My mother knew this. Jessica knew this. They had just gotten comfortable assuming I would always be the one paying, no matter how I was treated. I called my mortgage company first and confirmed the property was fully in my name, clean, no complications. Then I called a realtor I had worked with before, a woman named Karen Mitchell, and told her I wanted to list the house immediately, fully furnished, as is, for a fast cash sale. Karen asked if I was sure. I told her I had never been more sure of anything. Next, I canceled the cruise reservations for my mother's cabin and my sister's cabin. I had booked and paid for all 5 cabins under my name and my credit card, which meant I had every legal right to cancel any of them. I kept only the cabin for me and my boys, and even that, I ended up changing, Because here is the thing. Once I made that first call, I realized I did not want to go on that cruise anymore either. Not with people who thought of my children as other people's kids, so I canceled my cabin too. And instead, I booked a different trip entirely. A private beach house in North Carolina for me, Ethan, and Noah, somewhere quiet. Somewhere nobody could send me a text telling me my own sons weren't welcome. By 2 in the afternoon. The moving company I had called was already at the house, packing up my mother's things according to a very simple plan. I paid for everything to be professionally packed and put into a storage unit that I rented in her name, prepaid for 6 months, so she would have time to sort things out. I was not trying to leave her with nothing. I was simply done being the invisible support system for people who excluded my children. Karen called me back within the hour with an offer, an investor who wanted a quick, all-cash purchase, no inspection contingencies, closing in 5 days. I signed the paperwork electronically from my kitchen table while my boys watched cartoons in the next room, completely unaware that their mother's whole world was rearranging itself. By 4 o'clock. I had also called my accountant and stopped every automatic payment connected to my mother's expenses, the phone bill I had been covering, the car insurance on her sedan, all of it. I was not cruel about it. I sent her a calm, polite email explaining that starting today, she would need to manage her own finances since apparently my sons and I were not considered close enough family to be included in family trips. So perhaps it was time for actual independence to. Then my boys and I packed exactly what we needed, got in the car, and drove 3 hours to a rental beach house I had booked that same afternoon. I wanted us far away, somewhere the ocean sounded different, somewhere Ethan and Noah could just be kids without anyone's conditions attached to them. My phone started buzzing around 6 that evening. I ignored it. By the next morning, when the cruise ship would have already left port without my mother and sister on it, since I had canceled their cabins, I had 43 missed calls. 43, my mother, my sister. Even a cousin I hadn't spoken to in 2 years, apparently recruited to convince me to fix this. I finally called my mother back once my boys were asleep that first night at the beach house. She was hysterical. She said movers had shown up at her house that morning with paperwork saying it had been sold. She said the cruise line told her and Jessica their cabins were canceled and non-refundable to anyone but the account holder, which was me. She asked me, screaming, how I could do this to my own mother. I told her calmly that I learned it from her. She taught me that family comes with conditions. She taught me that some people count and some people don't. I simply applied her own rule. I explained that the house was legally mine, that I had given her 6 months of paid storage so she would not be left with nothing, and that starting now, she and Jessica were free to build a life that did not depend on the daughter and grandsons they considered not real family. She tried guilt. She tried anger. She even tried telling me I was destroying the family. I told her the family had already decided who belonged in it, and it wasn't me or my boys, so I was simply making that decision permanent. That was 4 months ago. My mother and Jessica had to find a small apartment together, something that apparently caused quite a bit of friction between them, since Jessica's boyfriend did not stick around once the free cruise and free lodging disappeared. I heard through my cousin that Jessica moved out on her own a few weeks later. My mother still calls sometimes, softer now, asking if the boys are doing okay, asking about their school, but I keep things distant and polite. Some doors you close carefully, and you don't rush to reopen them just because the person on the other side finally noticed the draft. As for Ethan and Noah, they still talk about that beach trip more than they ever talked about any cruise. They collected shells for hours, they learned to boogie board, and one night, Noah asked me if we could go back next year, just the 3 of us. I told him absolutely every year, for as long as they want. I used to think loyalty meant paying every bill and showing up for every plan, no matter how I was treated. I learned that loyalty without respect is just exploitation with better manners. My mother wanted a cruise with only real family on it. She got exactly that forever, just without me in the picture. and without the house, and without the money that had been quietly holding her life together for years. If this story hit home for you, if you have ever had to choose your own children over people who made you feel like an afterthought, let me know in the comments. And if you want more stories like this one, make sure you are subscribed to Revenge Stories because we post new ones all the time. And trust me, some of them go even further than this.